I'm Katie Williamson, certified life fulfillment coach.
And I'm Lauren Evangelho, a seriously self-taught entrepreneur. And this is where we share real life, have real conversations as two very real women.
In this space, we're going to cut through the bullshit from society and in our own heads and peel back the layers of who we are, why we're here, and how you can do the same in your own life.
Let's get beyond the bull.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to our second episode of Beyond the Bull. I'm Katie Williamson.
I'm Lauren Evangelho. Tell me, what piece of bullshit should we debunk today? What have you been thinking about?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for me, as I reflect back on kind of these past few weeks, I'm brought back to this lesson, I guess, that I've seen play out in my life multiple times, and yet am faced with it again, and the feelings are still there. And that is just, I guess, this belief that like life is best when it goes to plan. And in reality, that's not really true.
It's not, is it?
No. And if you know me at all, in a deeper way, because I really do try and come across as a go with the flow, easygoing type of person. I say that I am very much a closet planner. I don't know why you're laughing, Lauren.
Because I don't see you like that at all.
Oh, well, that means that you know me then.
I see you just like me, like an obsessive planner, organizer, has to have everything planned out. And
oh my gosh. I mean, if you see my house or my car, you would not think that I am like obsessively organized. But when it comes to strategizing or making plans or, oh my gosh, anything, I think you definitely want me on your team because I pretty much think through every scenario from A through Z and make a plan and a backup plan. And that's what allows me to be so go with the flow, because I've already thought of that potential thing happening and have a way to combat it. So,
that's an interesting concept we can save for a later podcast.
What's that?
How to be a planner and how being a planner allows you to go with the flow more.
Well,
Never thought about that before.
Oh yeah, it's all about reframing, right? I mean, some people will say like, why are you obsessing so much? And I'm like, well, my obsession about every possible scenario that could happen means that I am very prepared in most situations, the ones that I obsess about at least. So that way I can just show up and enjoy because I've already planned for multiple outcomes.
That's how I feel. I feel like I can't really be in the moment or really enjoy the moment if I'm not well prepared.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But you can obsess too much, right? I mean, you can go overboard with the planning and the thinking and the obsessing and the organizing. And
would I like to admit to that? No, I would not. Would my mother agree with you? Yes, she would, because she's usually the one that I call to stress out with.
Shout out to Katie's mom.
She's really great. But anyway, that ties into, I think, just a really interesting topic too, of like, okay, so that's super great to make all these plans and think that you have a way forward and go that way. And then, what happens like when life doesn't go to plan? And there's so many different areas that we can explore and get into the weeds of this, because I've definitely seen this happen just in multiple areas of my life. It's whether it's business or relationships or training or whatever. I think that the only constant in life is that change is going to happen. And the reality is that when change comes in, usually that means that plans are going to have to change too. So, what do you do when life doesn't go the way that you plan? Can you still be happy in the midst of that?
Were you asking what do I do when things don't go as planned, or what you should do? Because it's probably two completely opposite things.
Well, first of all, I don't think that should be in
Well,
our
okay,
language
yeah. You know
repertoire
what?
because that just leads to stress, but that's a
Yes, that's a
conversation for
very
another
good
day.
point. It's a very good point.
And
Um,
shoulds are what we're getting away from because who's the one who's actually shoulding you about
I
that?
was just going to say that. Um, there is no should or shouldn't. There is no right or wrong. There is no right path, wrong path when we're talking about life changes and how you should feel about them, right?
I mean, that's been something that has been a big part of my journey, of like having dreams and plans for my life from when I was little. So, for example, when I was little, like I really dreamed of growing up and going to college and getting married and have a family, and have that well underway by the time I was like old at 25, you know. When I was little, 25 just seemed so ancient. And that plan didn't work out. And there's a lot of bumps along the way um, through that, And so it's definitely easy for me to sit in this place and look back and find a lot that I'm grateful for why things didn't work out that way. But definitely in the moment, I had a lot of mixed emotions about that and didn't understand why like that plan hadn't happened for me yet.
So going back to our childhood, because you brought up your childhood dream. And I was just thinking, man, isn't it wonderful that our plans don't work out sometimes? Because if
Sometimes.
I had done everything according to plan when I was a child, I would be a marine biologist right now, which I don't think is in line with who I really am at all, other than the fact that I love animals. Um, but I'm so glad that didn't work out. And it's actually a funny story why it didn't work out. I think it was about 11 or 12, my first time going to SeaWorld. And I was so pumped. I was obsessed with dolphins and whales, and it's all I would draw. And I go to where you can feed the dolphins. And oh my God, it was the most terrifying thing of my life. I was terrified of dolphins and I had no idea. I went to feed them and I just freaked out and I started crying. I was like, I felt like my whole life got turned upside down because I thought, this is what I want to do with my life, but how can I do it if I'm so terrified of this animal that I want to work with? And so, my 12-year-old midlife crisis happened and I totally changed what I wanted to do. But, a lot of us go through that similar process as adults and have a lot of the same emotions, a lot of the same feelings. And what's your thoughts on how to handle when something gets thrown your way in life that you just weren't expecting and it just changes everything?
Everything.
Everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because I think one of, as I look back, one of the most interesting things to me in those times has been like the presence of mixed emotions often. That like I've had to acknowledge that um, when things haven't gone the way that I wanted. Um, so, for example, there was a time when I was actually very close to getting married. A lot of people don't know that. And we ended up calling things off like a few months before we had talked about or planning on getting married. And I was really devastated because in my mind I had seen a plan that I wanted unfolding before me, and it just changed in really an instant. And there was a lot of grief in that. And it's interesting thinking back because, I think especially when relationships end, but I think we can feel it, whether it's careers ending or any type of ending, there is a lot of grief around that. And sometimes we put that grief on the other person, or think that it's because we're losing this person. Um, but in reality, like in my experience with that, it was really like, yeah, it was this person who we had talked about, like joining our lives together, but it was also the loss and the grief of this dream and this plan this way that I wanted to see my life unfold. And so it was important for me to grieve. Um, but because that relationship ended, it actually opened the door for some really awesome things to come into my life instead. And so, and one of those was as it related to my career. Um, and it's just so interesting to me to look back on my life and see that, I firmly believe that if we hadn't broken up and we had gotten married, I know I wouldn't be where I'm at today because my career journey wouldn't have gone the way that it did. And it was because of that broken relationship and then another breakup that happened later on that year, that I ended up meeting my mentor, who I have now and have had for the last 5 years. And my life has totally changed because of the work that I've gotten to do with him. And so it's like in the moment, that was just the most devastating, worst thing that I felt like could have happened because the plan that I had for my life was totally flipped upside down. And yet, because of it, my life is so rich today because of the experiences that I've had. And so to me, it kind of comes back to this, like, truly this deeper, like, core belief about life itself of, can I trust that my life is actually unfolding exactly how it's supposed to, even when it doesn't make sense in the moment? Um, and that's hard for me to sit with sometimes. And in that are, like you're talking about, a lot of different emotions. Grief for what's feels like is being lost at the time, hope for what's ahead, or maybe even excitement sometimes, or joy. Um, and I think that that's really important to acknowledge too, of that sometimes, um, when things change, there are multiple emotions that we're experiencing, and it's important to give ourselves permission to feel all of those.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The first thing that I do when a major change happens, I think, is just kind of slow everything down, slow myself down, and start writing, because it kind of gets all of those emotions that are in my head down onto paper where I can physically see them. And it helps me kind of process what I'm going through. But yeah, I just kind of sit with all of my emotions and I just kind of be my emotions for a while and just embrace them, because I think we all know as adults by now that bottling up your emotions don't really do any good. And I think I don't like to make things black and white, so I'm sure there's more options, but you have two choices between whether you want to try to just ignore what you're going through and shove on and tough it out, or what I find has worked better for me in the past is just being a mess for a while and just letting myself go through it and feel everything, and get really clear on exactly what I'm feeling. Because sometimes when I think I'm angry, I'm really what I'm really feeling is just sadness, or when I'm feeling I don't know, angry. I'm really feeling betrayed. Like there's better words for things, and I think if you get really clear on what you're feeling, it really helps process it and it helps allow you to move on faster
Yeah.
and
Well,
and
there's
without a bunch of baggage that you're carrying along the way.
right. Well, and there's a few things that you said in there that are really important that I want to highlight. One thing that came to mind about what you just said with, it helps us move forward without baggage. I do think it's important to realize like our life isn't linear, it's very cyclical and or circular. And our emotions are the same. And so, even if we've gone through and we think that we've grieved and healed from something, chances are it's going to come up again. And that's not bad. It's just an opportunity to heal on a deeper level or learn something new about ourselves in another way. Um, what you said about anger, spot on. Anger is actually a secondary emotion. So, what that means is that many times when we feel anger, um, yes, that's valid emotion and we are angry, but anger usually masks something else underneath it,
I'm
hurt.
like totally going Star Wars mode in my brain right now, hearing Yoda, like fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate.
Yeah, like there's
I hope
something
I'm not the only
else.
one.
There's something else underneath that anger, whether
Yeah.
it's fear or betrayal or sadness or hurt. And there's a lot of power in being able to sit with the emotion long enough to get to what's underneath the surface. Because so often we think like, oh my gosh, they made me so angry, or oh my gosh, I'm so hurt by them, blah, 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 whatever. It's really not about the other person. Like
Oh my gosh,
when
yes.
we're experiencing
100%.
when we're experiencing those emotions, the reality is that, if I'm feeling, let's say you do something, Lauren, and I get angry at you, um, and or maybe I'm hurt. Like the reality is that yes, there might have been something that you did, but I'm feeling my emotions because I'm putting some type of expectation on how you should be, how I should be treated by you, um, something like that. And so I'm like, I mean, I don't want to get too general in saying like I'm doing it to myself, but there there's a place for reflection of when I'm feeling intense emotions to looking at, okay, why am I having such a strong reaction to this circumstance? It's not about the person and what they did, but I'm reacting to it for some reason. There's something that it's setting off in me, whether it's a belief that I have about the way things should be or the way I should be treated, which again, the way I should be treated, that might be valid, but it's also an opportunity for me to see if I can get deeper into that to ask myself, is that actually true? Like, do I need to tell you, or do I need you to tell me every single thing that you're doing in order for me to feel okay with our friendship or something? I mean, it's a bad example because I am not angry at you.
No,
So,
I get what you're saying though. I love how the word should keeps coming up.
mhm.
Um I feel like that word should is a very what's the word I'm looking for now?
Should is an unhelpful word. So,
Unhelpful.
yeah,
There you go.
I,
Unhelpful word.
I don't like to use negative because usually the perception of something is negative, it's that it's bad.
Mm,
And it's not necessarily that should is bad, it's just that it is unhelpful because um, there's a few words that, when those are present in our thoughts, they do lead to emotions that are unhelpful.
yeah.
They lead to emotions of guilt or fear or anger. Um, and it's just the language that we're using. If
Mm,
I feel like you should treat me a certain way and you don't treat me that way, then I'm going to be mad at you. I'm going to feel hurt by you because I have a deeper belief that you should do this.
mhm.
Like, and I'm the one who's living in suffering at that point because you're completely unaware of the expectations that I have for you.
Right. And that's like you're projecting your reality onto me, which I have my own reality. I have my
Yeah.
own world, and I don't know what your expectations of me are unless you communicate that.
And that's an important part because I try to be really careful talking about this too, of realizing that like this isn't an end all be all, that there's one, we can take accountability for our own actions. Sometimes we do have beliefs about the ways that we should be treated and should not be treated. And that's okay to stand up for. I'm not saying that, we just need to change our beliefs about how I should be treated and I'm okay getting yelled at all the time. I'm not. And because I have a belief about the ways I do want to be treated, then when those are violated, I feel confident speaking up against them if the situation warrants it.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that like I'm also communicating the other side to it.
Yeah.
That
That's like a whole
yes,
nother podcast topic on boundaries and
yes,
yeah.
yeah, that yes, we have personal responsibility to be aware and in control of our own emotions and reactions. And yes, there is a place for establishing boundaries and communicating that. So I digress a little bit. I do want to come back to one other thing that you shared, though,
Yes.
where you mentioned that in the scenario where you are upset and feeling strong emotions, you identified like you basically have two choices. You can sit in them and move through them or stuff them down and carry on and pretend like everything's fine. One of the things that I definitely abide by and bring up in my coaching a lot too is that when it comes to choice or options, I like to call them options, um, when we are faced with a problem or something where we're trying to brainstorm how to move forward, when we only have one option in front of us, um, it's really like an ultimatum. It must be this way. There's only one way forward.
And
When
when is
there,
that really ever the case?
well, but I'm saying sometimes we feel like that, right? This is my
Right.
only option. Like we're stuck, either do this or we die, basically. I mean, we don't get that extreme, but you know what I mean. When we can give ourselves two options, then we're faced with a dilemma, either or. I can either do this or this, but I only have two choices. That's a dilemma. When we're able to move into a space of generating three or more options, that's the place where we put ourselves into choice. And that's a very powerful place to be from just an internal, like, empowerment place. Um, we're not really empowered when we're faced with an ultimatum or a dilemma. There's usually still a lot of stress around that. So it's really important, just when we're faced in any situation that we want to experience change, that we open ourselves up to generating multiple options, preferably more than three. And in doing so, it can seem a little silly, but one way to get there is to really remove judgment from the options generated. So even if it's something silly, so if you don't mind, if we can go back to the situation you described, even though you're okay with the options, you're still in a dilemma. So you're in a really emotional space and you identified two options: sit and wallow in my feelings, and that's it. Um, wait, no, that's not one that you said. Sorry.
I
You
was
said,
gonna say, wait,
no,
what was the
sorry. Remember that. You can use it as option three. Um,
Yeah, that's true. There you go.
so you said you can either stuff your feelings and carry on like nothing's happened, or you can sit in them for however long it takes and
Process them. Yeah.
process them. Okay. So if you're open to staying down this road, can you come up with other options that you would have when you're in that space of feeling overwhelmed by your emotions?
Well, I can tell you, I don't know if this is like a good answer, but
Don't judge it. That's a judgment.
okay. Okay, all right. Fair enough. When I'm going through a major change and I feel really overwhelmed, one of the things that I really feel like I need and I crave is just getting out of my own head for a while. So that could look like going and punching a bag. That could look
Okay,
like taking some edibles and chilling out for a while. That could be watching a movie, just anything
good.
that's enough to distract me, to put me in the moment. I feel like that really helps like bring some clarity, just to stop thinking about it for a while.
Okay. So I'm going to take notes while you are brainstorming. That's great. You came up with 3 things. Um, so, and also earlier you said writing was another option.
Yeah.
Let's
And
give
I
it
just came up
like,
with another one.
okay, go.
I personally am not a person of faith, but I know for a lot of people, they pray about it and they talk to God about it and they
Okay.
put it in his hands. I
Is
think
there,
so you turn to faith, maybe that's another option.
okay, is there something that in that realm that works for you personally that you would equate as either prayer or having faith, even if it's in something else or meditation or like what would that look like for you?
I mean, I do believe in, I guess, like balance of energy, and I believe I get signs from the universe or God or whatever you want to call it. But maybe the closest thing for me would just be going back to my core beliefs and core values, and trying to find an answer through that, through my own faith in myself, maybe.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes
Um,
sense, but
so what I hear is like going internal.
yeah,
It's
maybe.
okay if it's not. That wasn't a very committal yeah. So what words would you other words would you use to describe that? Like balancing energy or like reviewing core beliefs or
Like, you know how a lot of people turn to the Bible, scriptures, the Word
Mhm.
of God, and they find clarity and meaning in that. I like to turn to my core values, my core identity. Um, I like to revisit my purpose, my passion, really who I am on a deeper level. And, I use kind of that as my scripture. I hope that's not blasphemous and I'm not pissing people off right now. But that's what helps me a lot of
Awesome.
the times, my own written scripture, so to speak, what I live by.
Good. Um, good. So what I'm thinking, we have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we have about 8 things that you've come up with so far.
Wow, I came up with that many? Dang, look at me go.
Yes, and I want to push a little bit more and say, what do you think about? I'll set the timer for 30 seconds and you just
I didn't know I
rattle.
was going to get tested in this episode. What is this about?
It's not a
Oh,
test, you
put
don't
me
get
on
a
the
grade,
spot. Okay.
but 30 seconds, think of as many other things that you can do, like any type of response. Don't think of it as good or bad. It's just any type of response at all. Does that make
Of
sense?
what I can do to help me get through change or get through
It doesn't
emotions.
even have to be, it's not to help you get through change.
Okay.
It's any response you can have when you're feeling overwhelmed with emotion.
Oh, any response that I can have.
Any
Ooh,
response.
ooh. Okay, now I'm excited. It's going to be fun.
Okay. So this is where it's important not to judge. So
Okay.
don't think like, ooh, that's a bad response. I don't want to do that.
Okay.
And so we probably took like, I don't know, 5 minutes before and you came up with 8. So let's see how many. We're going for volume here.
And I'm thinking out loud, right? I'm talking. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So we'll do 30 seconds. And if you're still on a roll, we can do another 30. But let's see how many, any type of response to overwhelming emotion. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Ready, set, go.
I can snuggle my pets. I can scream and yell at somebody. I can journal. I can do something that makes me feel fabulous, like go get a new hairstyle or a pedicure or something like that. I can go shopping. I can roll jujitsu. I can do Muay Thai. I can go on a drive to clear my
Okay.
mind.
That was 30 seconds. Good. Let me get the drive. Okay. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10. Awesome. In 30 seconds. That's good. I haven't quite done this before, but I want to like go one more direction.
Okay.
Let's do another 30 seconds. And think about any bad responses.
Okay, so now we are putting judgment,
I mean,
kind of, in
technically,
a way.
yes, because I'm clarifying it as bad,
Okay.
but I just kind of want to get into the breadth of response. Okay, so we'll do 30 seconds, maybe some. If you did it, it would probably be judged as bad responses.
All right.
Okay, 30 seconds and go.
All right. I can choose somebody out in person or on social media. I can slash their tires. I can send them a glitter bomb. I can leave shit in a box on their front doorstep. I can stab somebody. I can trash somebody's reputation for hurting me. I can spread rumors. I can. I don't know. I can poison their food.
Coming from the meal prep queen. Oh
I
no.
can spit in their food. Oh, yeah, here we go. Okay, I
Okay.
can overcook their chicken.
Oh, okay, good.
That was fun. You know what? That was a really good release. I'm just gonna tell you that right now. I might start doing this when I'm upset.
Okay,
Just thinking.
so I want to go back and just say from when we very first started this, when you first like kind of threw out, okay, let's just hypothetically, there's a situation, I'm feeling overwhelmed, have a lot of emotions around it, and you vocalized subconsciously, I guess, or without the awareness, a dilemma, right? I can stuff my feelings and carry on like nothing happened, or I can sit and process them and feel them all, right?
Right.
That's what we said before.
Yes.
So, how does it feel in that space versus thinking about now? Okay, you are feeling upset about a situation and have a lot of emotions and are feeling overwhelmed, and you're just like, ugh, what can I do about it? Well, let me tell you what you can do about it, Lauren. You can watch a movie, you can take an edible, you can punch a bag, you can sit and process, you can write, you can go to prayer, you can return to your core values and your identity, you can choose someone out in person, you can choose someone out on social media, you can overcook their chicken, you can slash some tires, you can put shit in a box on their doorstep, you can stab someone, you could send them a glitter bomb, you could spread some rumors, you could trash your reputation, you could snuggle pets, you could scream and yell at someone, you can journal, you can do something that makes you feel fabulous, you can get a pedicure, you can change your hairstyle, you can go for a drive, you can go shopping, you can do jujitsu, you could do Muay Thai. You got a lot of options.
I know. I feel like if anybody needs help getting revenge on an ex-boyfriend, they should call me up. Just kidding.
um, and so I don't know, how do you feel like being in that space where you have two things to choose from versus like 30?
It's relieving, honestly. It's like I'm big on freedom.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that's like giving myself freedom and permission that I can do whatever I want, really, if I really wanted to do that thing. And there's
Yeah,
all these other options. I like options.
right. And you're not alone in that. That's how we are as human beings. I mean, we all have a need for freedom or variety. And it's I think that it's very important to also generate some options that maybe seem like, oh, well, I would never do that. Like, I'm not going to make that choice, because it reminds us that, but we do have a choice. Like, I actually do have a choice in this situation. I can go slash their tires and I'm going to choose not to. Like, I can send a glitter bomb and I'm going to choose not to. You know what I mean? Like, there's power in that versus if we don't vocalize that that's an option, then we're really just stuffing and repressing feelings that might be there. Because the fact is, I mean, as much as we might not want to say it, like when we're angry, like, yeah, sometimes we really do want to take it out on someone else. Maybe we really do want to overcook their chicken, you know? And having the choice, when we can see that, it can say, like, you know what? I really want to overcook their chicken, but my reputation as a chef and as a business owner is really important to me. So I'm going to choose to still uphold my values and do the right thing and find a different channel to release this emotion.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That's a really cool strategy. I have actually never really applied that when I'm going through a major change, just making a list of all of the possible options that I have.
Yeah.
I think that would be very freeing and very relieving to do that in the moment.
Well, and in my experience too, both for myself and in working with clients, like the other cool thing about it is that when we give ourselves permission to not judge the outcome, it can be kind of comical. Like, there
Yeah,
were
look at
some
how much
that,
we're laughing right now.
yeah, we're laughing, and it puts you in a different headspace to
Mhm.
remember, like, okay, I actually could do that, but I'm choosing not to. Like,
Mhm.
I'm going to be a good person and not go put shit on someone's front porch. I'm going to choose not to go slash their tires. Like, good for me. I'm such a good person. Like, it's funny. Like, but that's the reality.
Just coming
And
up with all kinds of shit that you'd never really do, but
I
it's
mean,
in
that's
your
the
head. It's
hope.
like kind of comical. That's
Yeah,
the hope.
that's the
Let me
hope.
say that's the
Like,
hope.
you still have the choice, you can go
Yeah.
do that, but consequences follow. Let's like follow it up with that.
Mhm.
Um, but the point of all of that is that it puts us in choice to choose in this situation, who do I want to be? You know, thinking back to, multiple times in my life when the plan has changed and I've been really sad about it. Like, I've gone through a period of intense grief. And yeah, like I was depressed and, you know, I didn't want to get up and do anything and whatnot. Um, like I still had choice in that. And part of that came back to, even when I didn't feel like making the decision, you know, I chose the path that would like lead me to, or how do I put it? That affirmed who I want to be and who I want to become. For me, a big way that I move through emotions and that I also process emotions, I think that I'm a very like kinesthetic person in the sense that I feel a lot. Sometimes I can't put words to what's happening or what I feel inside my body. I feel it and it's a lot. I don't really know how else to explain it. So I've developed tools over the years to help me put words to my emotions. And one of the ways for me that is really powerful is I have to move. When I'm feeling very like I've been set off, my emotions are really high. I don't know, even if I'm like super sad, moving my body helps move those emotions through me. And there have been plenty of times where I've gone to the gym and had a super hard workout. And at the end of the workout was physically so exhausted and spent that it was like finally my heart and my mind could put words to what was happening inside. And I was
That's
like,
exactly what I was
oh,
talking about when I was saying like I need to do something that puts me in the moment to get me out of my own head. That's
mhm.
exactly what I mean. Something that's so distracting in some way that you can finally shut your brain off for a while, because when it turns back on, it's like a reboot for me. Like if something's broken, the first thing you always do is turn it off and turn it back on again. That's
Yeah,
exactly what my brain needs sometimes. So
yeah,
I
for
can relate.
sure. Yeah, and that gives me clarity. And so looking back, I mean, exercise has been a huge way that I have gone through some of the toughest times in my life. And I mean, to be honest, that's partly why I'm in the shape that I'm in. Is because like the gym is
Which
my
is really awesome shape, by the way.
thanks. Because the gym is my outlet, and anyway, the what I'm getting at is, the times that I feel like I don't want to go to the gym, um, it comes back to like who do I want to be and who do I want to become? And, you know, being positive and being able to like recenter my focus and have a good outlook and, you know, be at peace with my life and the direction that it's at. Working out is one of the many ways that I can achieve that. And so that's like my deeper reason for why I work out and why I train. It's not for how I look, it's because of what it does for me mentally, emotionally, and spiritually too, because it helps to process all of that.
Yeah, it really is like a mind reboot for me a lot of the times,
Yeah.
especially if I'm getting punched.
Yeah. I mean, okay. Well, I mean, here's a side note to be perfectly honest. We joked about, I think we talked about it in the last podcast, like what's the best kind of exercise? And it's the one that you do. I'm a
Uh
firm
huh.
believer in that, blah, 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 whatever. However, I am biased because the research does show that um, honestly, like truly the best exercise when it comes to like releasing endorphins and everything is exercise that elevates your heart rate and also involves complex motor movements. So that means like coordinating coordinating your body like
Yeah.
while you're raising your heart rate. So jujitsu,
Jujitsu,
for
any kind of martial
example,
arts,
yeah. I mean,
squats,
and with martial
deadlifts.
arts, like you have that added piece of like there's very much a survival aspect of it. Like you can't just sit there and think like, "Oh, I'm like getting choked right now," or "Oh my gosh, I'm like getting punched. What should I do?" Like, okay, I got to put my foot like right here and take this
You don't have
step.
time to think.
No. So your brain has to shut off. But if you don't do martial arts, there's still other obviously ways that you can get that mental benefit of the endorphins and all of that. It's just any exercise that is going to be involving like complex motor movements with an elevated heart rate, you do actually get a greater high from that. And anyways, there's a lot of other stuff that it does, but
Interesting.
I like nerd out on things like that. If you're interested in that also, I would definitely recommend picking up the book Spark by, I think his name is John Rady. I can look it up real quick. He's a Harvard professor. I read it in one of my classes for the master's program, and oh my gosh, it is like the best book ever.
I
Um,
will have to check it out. It's only if it's on audiobook though. I swear, girl, every time I try to read a book, I fall asleep now.
oh, I'm the
It's
opposite.
awful.
Whenever I listen to something, I will fall asleep. Anyway, go me. I was correct. It's called Spark by John Rady. Yeah, I'm not humble at all. But yeah, John Rady,
How do you spell the last name?
Ratey. The full title is Spark, the Revolutionary New Science of Exercise and the Brain. Super fascinating. One of my favorites. If you're interested in that stuff, definitely recommend it.
Yeah, I love
But
stuff like that.
we digress. Sorry. Um, but yeah, I mean, I guess going back to like our original topic of just, what about when life changes and, that life is only good when it's going to plan. You said something earlier that it might have been before we started recording that I thought was really powerful. If you want to explore it further, of how your life usually gets better when it hasn't gone to plan. Do you want to talk a little
Yeah,
bit more about that?
I think we've all experienced this at some point, and it's something that everybody likes to tell us when we're going through hard shit, and it's the one thing that we hate to hear when we're going through hard shit. But it's so true. They say when one door closes, another one opens. And as cliche as it is, I have to say, I can't think of a single situation in my life where shit has not gone as I planned, that something better didn't come out of it.
Yeah.
So I think it's so super, super important to just realize that when you're going through hard shit, it's like, yeah, it didn't work out the way that you want it, but now there's an opportunity for something better. And you might have to work for it. And you might have to change a lot of things, and you might have to change your perspective. But there is that hope and that opportunity that, hey, maybe there's something better out there for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree. And one of the things that I'm so grateful about now in this part of my life, like I shared before, when I was little, my plan was to go to college and get married and have a bunch of kids and yada yada before I was 25. Um, or start when I was 25, whatever. Um, and that didn't happen. But what I'm finding now that I just am so grateful for in the midst of like, as I still am waiting for that to happen, it hasn't been a passive wait at all. And as I look back, like I've had so many opportunities through my 20s to travel literally all around the world multiple times, um, to just have the freedom to say like, huh, that sounds cool. I'm going to try that. Go and do it. Um, I've realized that like I used to have this, it ended up being a kind of a fear limiting belief. Now I can see it that way, of that it'll be easier to start or have my own business when I'm married, because then I can depend on someone else's income, and have like the stability and support of like someone else. And, I've been able to like prove to myself that no, that's not the case. Like I've taken control of my finances because I was not smart with my money in my 20s. I felt like I should have known better, even while it was happening and I wasn't saving. But you don't know what you don't
That's
know.
pretty
And
much everybody in their 20s.
I know I chose to be naive and be like, oh, I'll fix it. One day I'll marry someone who's so smart with finances. And
Isn't that so fucking cool that you did it all on your own?
yeah, but I did it on my own. And like,
That's
I am so
amazing.
proud of how I have changed my life over the last 2 years as it relates to my finances.
Yes.
Um, and I just have this long list of things that like I've had the privilege and opportunity of doing, and who I've gotten to be and become because I had the freedom to do that.
Yep.
And it's crazy because it's like, and again, this is my story, my experience. I'm not shaming or downplaying anyone whose life hasn't gone the same as mine, not at all. Because, and I say that like I'm sensitive to that because I shared my story at a church event one time, and I still remember this. My topic for the time was we were doing a series, and it was called Just Do It. And the my kind of thing for Just Do It was obey. And so for me, I shared how, what obedience to God looked like for me up to that point was saying yes to these opportunities that God placed in front of me, even when it didn't make sense how it would happen or why. And I had like this backpack that I had gotten from Mexico, and I had put a bunch of things in it that illustrated like all of these rich experiences that I got to have because I said yes and I obeyed. And for me, I related it back to, I'm grateful that I've been able to have these experiences because I've been single and I don't have kids. Like I can just say yes to something. Um, and I had someone come up to me afterwards who was married and had kids, and I felt like they were actually upset at what I had shared and said, oh, so are you saying that like I can't obey God if I have a spouse and children because I don't have time to? And I was like, no, I feel like you totally missed like the point of my talk. And for me
Yeah.
internally, what that did was like, and looking back, I was still young, and I think I would take it differently now. But like for me, hearing that afterwards, it was like I felt so much shame because I was single. And it was like, you don't realize that like what you have is what I desire. Like I want that, and I haven't had it yet. So I'm making the most with what I have. Like, why are you
Yeah.
shaming me for that? Like, you know what I mean? Anyway, I digress. But the point is just that like now I'm at a spot where I am so grateful because everything that I've done, it has been like this passion of mine and this question of like, oh, what if? Could I actually do this? And then I've had the ability and the freedom to go out and do it and prove to myself that, yeah, actually I can. And it makes me excited now for when that time in my life does come where, I do enter into that next phase and, you know, get to partner with someone and raise a family, because it's like, I'm sure that I will still have desires for things that come up, but there's so many things that I've checked off my list for life that I can be like, no, I'm like all in with this right here because you know what? I don't have the itch to go to New Zealand because I've already been there. And oh,
Yeah.
I don't have the itch to like start my own business because I've already done that. Like, oh, I don't have the itch to write a book. Oh, I've already done that. You know what I mean? Like
You'll be a lot more ready, a lot more prepared when the time comes,
to
I
just
feel like.
focus on that stage of my life because I can
Yeah.
be fully there because I was fully there through my other experiences.
Yep.
And I
And it's
think
different
that's,
for everybody, you know? Some people want to have kids first and focus on their life purpose later on, and that's okay too. And I think that comes back to maybe where we should end it, making sure that the emotions that you're feeling and everything that you're going through and the choices that you make are your own and not what your mother is telling you to feel, not what your church is telling you to feel, not what society is telling you to feel. Just making sure that you're making the right choices for you
yeah,
and you
and
alone.
it's giving yourself permission to be who you are right now. trusting that you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Life will unfold exactly as it's supposed to. You can't miss it. And really the only thing that we can do is be present and grateful for the moments that we have, and realize that if we're open to, sitting and processing, that we can come up with a lot of different options to put us in choice about what the next step forward is when things don't go to plan.
Yes. Well, or we could slash tires and overcook chicken. So
hey, it's your choice. It's your choice. And we are not here to, what's it called? Support or condone any behavior. Just know that it's your choice and there are consequences, good or bad, for any choices that are made. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in to this episode of Beyond the Bowl. We hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you. This is a wonderful one. I had so many laughs.
Yes. Same
See
here.
you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey guys, I'm Katie Williamson, and you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Legit Katie Williamson, or you can head on over to my website, www.katiewilliamsoncoaching.com.
And I'm Lauren Evangelho. You can follow me on Instagram at LOEV_LY. And if you want to learn more about my business, you can follow at Precision Prep by Celia on Instagram or Facebook.com/Precision Prep by Celia.
We look forward to hearing from you guys soon.